So this is the roadmap that we take every single time that we have an idea, want to bring it to the marketplace. We've done over $100 million for the companies that we work for in valuation just for the designs that we've done. I'll give you guys a great example. Last year, a company called Heyday just sold to a company called Best Brands. Now they're called Esser. They sold for $1.2 billion. They were a product-based company. We've contributed to over $50 million of that $1.2 billion. So check this out. If you have an idea and you have that excitement, you're like, this is the idea that's going to make me rich, or it's going to feed my family, or this is the idea that's going to leave a legacy. I want you to take that emotion, because that emotion is going to fuel you in order for you to go through this entire map and take it to the marketplace. So first things first, after you have that initial idea, I want you guys to document it as much as possible. Write down exactly what your idea is, who does it help, what kind of problem does it solve, and then who your target market is. But you don't want to just stop at some text. You also want to start doing some sketches, document it as much as possible. We're very visual people, so having some sketches of how it works, maybe the mechanism, maybe a top view, side view, and try to be as detailed as possible. Now, I understand most of you guys are not artists, and I'm not asking you guys to do some artistry sketches. Do not get intimidated. Just take your pencil, take a piece of paper, and start to draw. Once you've documented your idea, I want you guys to start going to doing some research. Research is very important. You want to see if you have any competitors. And if you do, what are your competitors doing and what their customers are saying? What do they really like about that product, and what do they wish was a little bit different about that product? That's going to be some very important information that you're going to take along with you. I'm going to share with you guys exactly why in just a minute. Next, you want to take a look to see if there's any intellectual property that's been already patented, right? So if you already have a patent on that competitor's product, you want to take that patent, you want to examine it, because it's going to give you guys the roadmap exactly of what you need to circumvent in order for you to get your patent or just to take it to market. I want you guys to understand something. You don't necessarily need a patent to take something to market. And there's a lot of products that exist on the market that do not have patents, meaning you can compete with them just by making that product better. I'm going to share with you a great example of that. Look at the spin mop. If you look at spin mops, there's hundreds of spin mops out there, and a lot of companies are making millions of dollars on spin mops. And a lot of times they almost look the same with some very slight variations. Sometimes the handle's more comfortable, it's got a better grip, or sometimes the bucket looks different, or it spins a little bit better. Okay, so just keep in mind, you don't necessarily need a patent in order for you to create a product that's successful for the marketplace. Now, once you've done that research, and most of the time, this red line is exactly where people get stuck, because afterwards, they need to move forward with it, and most of the time, they're going to need that professional help. This is a lot of times where we come into play. We have an incredible team, a great infrastructure, over 16 employees that are going to help you take that idea to sales. So next, what we do is we start refining your idea. So we do some additional research, and we take a look at exactly what the customer wants. And this is so important, because you want to sell a customer what they want, not what you think they want. Just think about it this way. Here's how visual we are. If your iPhone looked like a Frankenstein with a bunch of wires sticking out, it would defeat the purpose. It wouldn't be as sleek as it is right now, and you probably wouldn't buy it. Same thing goes for a Tesla. Same thing goes for your Mac, and same thing goes for Windows. Same thing goes for different luxurious brand of cars. So we refine your idea, we create the industrial sketch. This is how the product is going to look. We want it to look really, really sleek. Form follows function. And after we've refined that idea, we're going to start to CAD model that idea. And when we CAD model the idea, we make sure that we design it for manufacturing. There's a lot of different ways to make a product. But if it's made out of plastic, there are certain rules called injection molding plastic rules that you have to follow. For example, plastic can only be as thick. If it's too thick, the part's going to warp, because the outside cools while the inside stays warm, and then it pulls the inside warm. So you're going to have some warps, some dimples. You don't want to have that. So you have to follow the rules of plastic injection molding when you're designing a product. Now, this 3D CAD file doesn't just give us the design for manufacturing file, but it also allows us to create realistic renders. That's what your product is going to look like. So we take that 3D CAD file, we apply some textures, we apply colors, and we make it look really real. This is what the end product would look like. And it allows you to visualize your product before prototyping it and before manufacturing it, and allows us to make some revisions based on what you like and don't like, and also based on the research that we've done and the research that you've done. Next, we take that CAD model and we create a prototype. So there's a lot of different ways to create a prototype. It's not just 3D printing. Sometimes we also use CNCing, we use vacuum forming, or we use urethane casting. Depending on what materials we're going to be utilizing for your final product, we tend to make the prototype to mimic it as much as possible. Let me share with you guys why. We're going to have to test it. And based on the test that we make, we're going to make some iterations. If the prototype isn't as sleek as we want it, then we have to make some iterations. If it doesn't work the way we want it, we have to make some iterations. Or if it doesn't feel very good, we have to make some iterations. Generally speaking, we do between 5 and 10 iterations before we have a product that we really like and that you really like. And we're like, okay, this is what we're going to take to market. And I understand some people are like, okay, one and done. I don't believe in the one and done. There's always refining to be made. And sometimes you don't really see what needs to be changed until a few days, and sometimes even a couple of weeks after you've made your prototype and kept testing it. So this phase is very, very important. And when we're making these iterations, we kind of keep going back and forth between the CAD model and the prototype, and sometimes going back to refining the idea. And this right here kind of goes in circle until we're satisfied with every single step of the product. Now, once we are satisfied, that's when we go down to branding, because we want to create the packaging for this product. And there's two ways of creating packaging. You've got packaging for retail, you've got packaging for e-com. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're not. And I'm going to share with you guys why your packaging for retail should be different from your packaging for e-com. But your branding isn't just packaging. It's your logo, it's your website, it's your brand colors, it's the messaging, right, that we're conveying to your client. And we have to do this right, because with the branding, with the packaging, now we're able to go to manufacturing because we have all the data. We have the CAD model that's designed for manufacturing, and we have your branding, which is your logo and your packaging. Now we go to manufacturing. Now, sometimes there is a step between branding and manufacturing, which is funding. A lot of times people don't have enough cash to go to manufacturing, and that's fine. There's a lot of ways for you guys to generate cash to go to manufacturing. One of the first ones you can do is you can always do a crowdfunding campaign. You can go to Kickstarter, you can go to Indiegogo, and you can start pre-selling your product. This is also a great way to get market validation prior. You can also go and get some angel investors. You can go to private equity, and you can also just ask friends and family. If you've done everything right until here, most of the time, people look at your product, you have a working prototype, you already have your website, and you already have your point of sale. All you need is going into manufacturing. So it's easier for your investors to take a look at your project and say, okay, you're very far along. All you need is a little bit of money injection, and we start making money. The first question your investor is going to ask themselves is, am I going to lose money? And if they're able to answer no, then the next question they ask themselves is, well, how much money am I going to make? And that's where you want to get your investor to, asking themselves how much money they're going to make with you. And when you finally get your investor to have that thought process, you've pretty much won the game. Now, when it comes to manufacturing, this is what I want you guys to be very careful with. You've done already all this work, so you don't want to fail over here, because this is a very critical point. If you go to a factory that you have not vetted, a factory that you don't know that's in a foreign country, they may burn you, meaning they may cheap you out on materials, or the quality control may not be in place as rigid as you would like. You're going to end up with some defects, and defects can result in negative customer voices. And the last thing you want is early on for a product to get some negative reviews, especially if you're on Amazon, because it's going to be very difficult for you to bounce back from those negative reviews. So you want to get a manufacturer that you trust and a manufacturer that you can vet. Ideally, you get a manufacturer that has a company in the United States. So when the wire transfer happens, it doesn't happen to a foreign country where you cannot get your money back, or you cannot go and pursue legal action with that manufacturer to, dispute the quality of the product and the fact that it's not the spec. So make sure that you have a manufacturer that's vetted, preferably again, somebody in the United States where you're protected legally. Next, you want to go into marketing, and I'm going to share with you guys why packaging is so important on marketing, because if you're doing retail packaging, that packaging itself is kind of like a mini billboard. I'm walking down the aisle, I see your packaging on the shelf, it has to draw my attention, at least enough for me to pick it up and take a look at it, and then that messaging has to convince me to buy it. So branding and marketing kind of go hand in hand, but here you're going to have a lot of different kind of marketing. You have paid ads, you have organic growth. When I mean paid ads, I mean just about everywhere. You can go to Meta. It's a great place to advertise. Google Ads also. And then afterwards, you have YouTube. You've got TikTok. Almost every single social media, including Pinterest, even Reddit. But I want you guys to keep in mind that it's important for you to also invest in SEO. Eventually, you want people to be able to find your product organically just by typing the right keywords. SEO is a long process, but do not shy of it. You have to do it. Okay, even if you don't see results right away, sometimes it takes 3, 6 months, even up to a year to start ranking on top of that Google page. And it's totally fine, it's okay, but it's something that you have to do when it comes to market. And I know it's a lot of information that we just covered, but if you do every single thing here correctly, you're going to start making sales on your product, and you're going to finally have something that can give you that residual income, whether it makes you rich, whether it helps you feed your family, or whether it leaves a legacy. So thank you for watching. And by the way, if you want to get a complimentary session, just click the link below and book a free consultation call. I'll be there with you personally. I'll share with you exactly what needs to be done in order for you to take your idea from a product that's just in your mind to something that's successful in the marketplace. And if we do decide to work together, we think you're a good fit, you think we're a good fit, and we're the right company for you to invest your money in, then we're going to make a very detailed proposal, which has all the steps that's going to be required to take your idea from where it's at right now until something that's successful on the marketplace. And even if you do not decide to work with us afterwards, you do get to keep that proposal. Just follow those steps and you'll be well along. Again, thank you guys for watching. This is Mehdi Gardi, CEO and co-founder of Product Innov and the head of engineering, and I'll see you guys on the next video.